A warmest welcome to all the participants of this conference. I'm the Vice Dean of the Department, Professor Massimiliano Caporin. I'm bringing greetings from the Department of Statistical Sciences Dean, Professor Giovanna Capizzi, that unfortunately cannot be here today. This conference is the closing event of a research project financed by the Next Gen EU funds within the National Recovery and Resilience Plan of Italy. The project, coordinated by Professor Alessandro Minello, involved colleagues from two other research units based at the University of Bologna and the University of Milano-Bicocca. The project activities developed along different paths, analyzing with both qualitative and quantitative methods fertility paths, from adoptions to medically assisted opportunities. The project combined data collection and interpretation using statistical methods and sociological readings of the outcomes. This concluding event will cover the entire day, the morning dedicated to the research contributions, and the afternoon at Palazzo Bo with a round table discussing the bounds of motherhood. I wish you an interesting and stimulating conference.
Thank you. Ready to start. Thank you, Massimiliano. Good morning, everyone. This is the program of the morning ahead of us. Let me first thank a lot of people, all the colleagues present here, and especially the discussants of this day, the internal ones, Professor Maria Letizia Tanturri and Luca Trappolin, and our special guests, Ilenia Picardi and Trude Lattegard. But let me also thank the administrative staff that has been so relevant in conducting this project. It will, as Massimiliano said, this morning will be followed by an afternoon session in Italian, which is in Italian at Palazzo Bo. But before we start, let me say only a few words about this project. This is us. This is our wonderful team, which is made of 3 units. The co-PIs are Livia, Elisa Ortensi, and Alessandra De Cataldo. Unit 1 is here at the Department of Statistical Sciences. It's made of Giampiero Dalla Zuanna and Elena Vettoretto, together with, let me mention that Anna Caterina Leucci will join the project in the future. Then there is a unit 2 at the Department of Statistical Sciences of the University of Bologna, led by Livia Elisa Ortensi, with Chiara Ludovica Comolli and Francesca Tosi. And finally, unit 3 at the Department of Sociology and Social Research, led by Alessandra De Cataldo, with Elena Andreoni and Brunella Fiori. Elena Andreoni and Elena Vettoretto will be the ones in charge of presenting the results of our project so far. So our project still is really, really ambitious, because we wanted to develop a mixed method, comprehensive approach to understand parental well-being and trajectories of late and latest fertility. Since it was ambitious, it was not only ambitious, actually, it was also innovative. And in fact, we spent a large part of our time collecting, devoted to data collection. We have 4 milestones in the project. For the first 3 milestones, we had to collect new data. The data are both qualitative and quantitative, starting from milestone 1, which has the aim of studying motherhood from a quantitative point of view. We made a retrospective original data set focusing on the childbirth and postnatal experiences, which is focused on several topics: obstetric violence, mental load, regret, well-being, and of course, fertility trajectories. The survey was made online. We have a corpus of around 5,000 respondents divided by age of the mother at first childbirth, before and after the age of 35. The second milestone was a qualitative one. It's an ethnography about assisted reproductive technology. In this milestone, we use ethnographic methods applied to digital environments in order to observe online practices, narratives, and social interactions. The topic of this second milestone was studying parental well-being in medically assisted reproduction pathways and clinical experience, merging and looking at both clinical experience and everyday life. We had 3 online communities across 3 platforms, Forum Free, Facebook, and Telegram, and a corpus of 6 months of observation conducted across these 3 platforms. Finally, the third milestone has been focused on adoption with the approach of a collaborative filmmaking, which is a participatory and visual approach in which participants co-create the audiovisual products. The focus here is no more only on mothers. Actually, not even in milestone 2, it was meant to be also on fathers, but then it's one of the results is that basically mostly mothers talk about their assisted reproductive technology paths. But this specific one includes parents, and it is focused on the well-being of adoptive parents. 27 video interviews were collected, plus 2 participatory co-reviewer co-editing workshops. There you can see a QR code. Elena for sure will show it, will tell you more about that, but it is a way to organize a view of a collective view of the videos that has been implemented during this milestone. Actually, in the afternoon, we will show a shortcut of this video, which lasts only 5 minutes, but the complete video can be requested using this QR code. This is something I must mention since we are here at the Department of Social Statistics. None of our milestone has a causal inference approach. Since the topic is so new, we want to give some descriptive results. We don't claim any causal inference with our results, but still there are several results we would like to show that can have implication for policies. Then, before we really get started, let us brag a little bit about everything we have done. We don't expect you to read any of this. We just want you to be impressed about how much we can work fits in only 2 years of a project. Since the data collection took so much time, from now on we are ready to build a bridge between the milestones. So now you can find the results from milestone 1 and milestone 2 and 3, but from now on we are ready to build a bridge between the units and to start cooperating together. This is the final conference, but actually the project will last until the end of February. Again, some other achievement we we reached. This is, again, just to impress you. We participated to several conferences. As you have seen before, we have some articles and book chapters who have been already published and some that are in progress. But, and this is really important, milestone 4 was about dissemination. All of us strongly believe that the results shouldn't remain within the 4 walls of the academia, but should go out into the world and create something more meaningful and also some discussion. That's why we collaborated with 2 agencies, communication jump agencies. One is called Jump Comunicazione and the other one is called Format Lab. That made possible to have the early results of our project already in the national press. What we have done is to create also video capsule of short videos of our main results that you can see online in our social medias in order to vehiculate the results of the project in a generalist way. So, as many of us know, there are projects you can't wait to see finished. This is not one of them, for sure. This project has sparked great collaborations and promising results. We hope it's only the beginning of working together. So, without further ado, let's look at the result of the FORTIES project. Yeah.
Okay, so welcome also from me. I'm Chiara Ludovica Comolli from the University of Bologna, and I'm very happy to share this first part of the presentations of the results of FORTIES. So I'm very happy to welcome Elena. Elena Andreoni will present us the results from milestone 2 and 3, as you just heard. So the results of the ethnography and the collaborative thinking. You have 30 minutes for the presentation. Then we will have 10 minutes of discussion from the discussants. and then we will open up for another 10 minutes of questions from Okay, then I give you the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm Elena Andreoni, a research fellow in the University of Milano-Bicocca. I'm glad and honored to be here and share with you some results of qualitative research lines of FORTIES project. I will present you some results of each research line and an integrated analysis at the end to have a synthesis of the findings. First of all, qualitative research line 1 is about an ethnography, so an observation in digital fields in ART, so assisted reproductive technology, dedicated online communities. Second one, as Alessandra Minello already explained, is a collaborative filmmaking, so a participatory and visual approach to have at the end a visual output on adoption. But let's start from the first one. We are the empirical material we collected is really rich. We are writing a lot of papers. This is one of them, focused on ethnography. And for collaborative filmmaking, I will present another on which we are still working. This is due to be published soon. And a quick overview on ART in Italy. We know is a clinical framework that supports paths to parenthood, challenging the naturalistic paradigm of filiation, and helping for the postponement of the choice to be parents. In Italy, the average age at first child is 32.6 years. And we know from the last CHEDAT report that ART was involved in 3.9% of pregnancies is in 2023. And this number is increasing. Is used among mostly women with medium-high education and after over 35 years old, mostly over 40s. But why an ethnographic approach to study ART? Thank you so much. There is a big infertility stigma on infertility issue. So ART happens offline for clinical procedures and medical protocols, but we discovered that happens, people fall back on online forum and online communities to search, to seek emotional support, to share knowledge, to share experiences because of this stigma. So helped by on life concept, so the idea that reality, physical and virtual reality are not separated, we went online to discover what happened in this multimodal experience. We wanted to understand which narratives and how the meanings of this specific trajectory to parenthood is co-constructed, and how people interact, how people co-create meanings on this, why they turn online, and how the structure of the platforms impact on the contents. To do this, to understand better this, we compare different platforms. This is a quick overview on the research design. After the approval by Ethics Committee and Data Protection Office, we identified 3 online fields: Forum Free, Facebook, and Telegram. We observe through a passive lurking, so with a cover non-participant observation, with an open and unrestricted access. The data collection was carried out with different strategies of web scraping because of the platforms, and the analysis was carried out through in vivo, through an iterative and abductive coding on both on contents and on platforms affordances. We identified some macro themes. This is synthesis. First of all, the thematic dimensions split in 3 pathways: the medical one, the non-medical one, and the external economic and political dimension. And the second one focused on the impact of the affordances. What did we find? Users turn online because they need a help to legitimize their own experience, to find some information, of course, but also to share emotions, difficulties, challenges, and they cannot always find it in their offline reality. Meanwhile, they co-construct an idea of parenthood which is symbolic, uncertain, and anticipated before a positive pregnancy test. they help each other to ritualize the waiting, because the waiting is really long, could last for years. And in the same time, they product situated knowledge. These are places in which we can find agency in these reproductive trajectories, but the risk is that without mediation, without peer construction of these discourse, the risk is the circulation of not always validated information. So the emerging of pseudoscience. So we found that ART has exclusively medical accompaniment, and there is a big challenge about stigma, and there is a gender burden, because we understood that these communities are crowded mostly from users, female users. Digital discursive fatherhood, we try to search it, but it is nearly absent, and we think that this is a socially significant void. Here, an example of the analysis of the affordances. I don't have time to stay on this, but synthetically, we can define Telegram as a daily diary against loneliness because of this face-based exchanges. Facebook is a virtual waiting room, and forum-free an historical and consultable archive and memory of waiting. So online spaces become crucial when offline support is lacking. ART in online spaces is not just a medical process, but a complex and comprehensive experience. And there are some challenges to consider related to inequalities, misinformation, and the risk of reinforcing normative expectations about gender roles and ideal pathways to parenthood. Some limits and risks of this kind of observation. Of course, a non-participant of observation, this limits the access to deeper meanings. The self-sampling and exposure bias, because we read mostly who is confident and self-disclosure and have a good platform competence. Fluidity of digital identities, we have a lack of metadata from these platforms, a limited inclusion of less visible groups, and an algorithmic opacity and private platform governance is a challenge because, of course, can alter the visibility of content and groups. But let's turn to the second part, so the collaborative filmmaking on adoption. Firstly, adoption in Italy. We know there is a heavy decline. Data are scarce, fragmented, and not always updating. Last survey from Ministry is dated 2022. Last CAI report focused on international adoptions is about 2024. Reasons for the decline are a lot. You can read something. I think I don't have time to go deeper. And why collaborative filmmaking? Firstly, is a participatory and visual approach. We wanted to understand what happened in this specific pathway to parenthood. is a way to let participants actively co-create audiovisual product, share authorship, and mitigate power asymmetries between researchers and who is researched. And of course, this could help to disseminate and whisper because of the results, because of the audiovisual product. We wanted to understand what happened in this kind of pathways. We want to produce a docufilm, a visual output, who could be both a research tool and a means of dissemination and public engagement. And we want to create a space to have participants and their empowerment, to foster it. Here, the research design. After the approval, we wanted to have an informed, voluntary, and revocable participation because of the sensitive data. We mapped and we found with recruitment via snowball sampling some couples and professionals who we interviewed. The analysis was an hybrid analysis between sociological and video making analysis. We selected some clips we shared with participants for their validation. After that, we assembled the docufilm. And we organized 2 workshops, one for parents, one for professionals, to discuss and listen about their subjects and their thoughts about this first draft. After that, we revised and re-edited the docufilm. Now it is ready for the dissemination. So the final representation of adoption is built through iterative steps that enables participation and collaboration with participants. During the iterative analysis, we identified some macro themes. This is pretty close to the structure of the docufilm, of the visual output. Not pretty the same, but quite similar. Here, an example of the analysis to create this visual output. On the fifth column, you can see the macro theme that I already mentioned, but in the second one, a structured description of the contents in each timecode clip. We discovered that adoption intersects with precarious welfare, is fragmented, and there is a big lack in the post-adoption support. Before the adoption, there is a good accompaniment, but after, no. Also in this specific pathway to parenthood, there is stigma linked to infertility and non-biological parenthood, judgment of adoption itself, and a symbolic proximity to the racism close to the migration stories, who families has to manage, which families have to manage. So there are some challenges related to identity, belonging, and the work of traumas. And this is important. Some main findings. Adoption as a good accompaniment before the adoption. And in this time, couples could resignified parenthood from the biological loss, so the social expectation, to the best interest of child. And this is a heavy and strong and powerful process. Waiting also in this case is a topic, a main topic, and the couples need to have some support and to feel this time. Family identity and the game of the difference is a big challenge, and post-adoption is a critical phase because of the lack of the support. There are also some cultural struggle, stigma, and stereotype about adoption, as already mentioned. Some methodological reflections. We have to focus while we are doing this kind of processes about reflexivity of all participants because it impacts on the results, and the reflection about the medium, because of course video camera and audiovisual recording is an opportunity but also a risk. In conclusion for this part, collaborative filmmaking creates new epistemic and political spaces, produces a situated knowledge. It's powerful but never neutral, so we have to pay attention in different steps of the process. Creates a product with both scientific and communicative value, and the result can serve as an exploratory and investigative tool. Some limits. This process requires intensive resources. There is a big topic about selection bias because self-selection, if you offer a video camera recording, of course, is a challenge. The asymmetry about the power of the activity of research and the authorship of the docufilms of the audiovisual output, it's a thing on which we have to focus several times. For example, with multiple moments of interdisciplinary reflections. In conclusion, some integrated and triangulated analysis of these non-paradigmatic trajectories to parenthood, which challenge both social expectations around biological ties, parenthood in adoption and in ART pathways is symbolically anticipated before the event, and there is a big issue about vulnerability. I don't focus more, but stigma is a big topic, and there is some difference between ART and adoption. One about workload. Workload is more heavy on women in ART pathways, and is both bodily and sanitary and mental load. In adoption pathways, they have both father and mother to reflect and to have the relation from this social services to be parents. So there is a symmetry on this. And the thing that change the differences on workloads, one of the protective factor is the preparation and the support about parenthood, the dialogical space to reflect on parenthood. This is a synthetical table of what I already explained. in both of the research lines, we were challenged by some ethical issues because of the sensitive of the content. We tried to apply some ethical strategies. And in conclusion, we can say that there is a transversal loneliness which touches all the parenthood trajectories. Parenthood beyond prescribed steps, checkpoints to support parenthood could be an answer to this loneliness. Strengthening fatherhood, reproducing gender asymmetries without reproducing gender asymmetries has to be due. And a conscious and engaged parenthood could be really a protective factor. The results, the audiovisual result, so the video is ready from today. Here you have a QR code to organize a projection if you want. We should be glad to organize some of this occasion. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Perfect timing. So now I leave the floor to Ilenia Picardi, our first discussant from the University of Napoli. Thank you very much. Do you want to stay? We can all sit here maybe and leave the the floor.
So, okay,
so might put the discussants to the floor maybe.
sì, Alessandra diceva così, sì, forse
non vuole.
Lo capisco.
Un po'.
Quindi scassando alla volta allora?
Sì, no. Vabbè, va così, va bene.
Quindi ci possiamo vedere quella colore. In realtà ci stava ci sta, io mi posso spostare, forse c'è anche le rotaggini. So, okay, thank you. So, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for this rich and ambitious presentation. It's a pleasure to act as a discussant for a work that is not only methodologically sophisticated, but empirically dense, but also ethically attuned to lived experiences of people navigating through no paradigmatic paths to parenthood that are assisted reproductive technologies and adoption. And what the FORTIES project achieves particularly well is to bring these two trajectories into dialogue, showing how parenthood beyond biology unfolds across different temporalities, different regimes of visibility, and different socio-technical infrastructures. So my comments today revolve around 5 themes: temporalities, stigma, knowledge production, and gender asymmetries, of course, and methodological reflexivity. So let me address each in turn. One of the strongest contributions of your integrated analysis is the attention of time. And the 2 research lines reveal deeply different temporal regimes. In ART, we have an highly medicalized, technical, cycle-driven temporalities, waiting condensed into a few intense days, emotional highs and lows tightly tied to hormonal and cycle clinical rhythm, and immediately and pulsing temporality shaped by different platforms. Different by the platform of FORTIES, especially in Telegram. In the adoption, we have a long, uncertain institutional temporality, bureaucracy sequences, evaluations, training, legal procedures, and the temporality of becoming suitable in the eyes of the institutions, and a slow reflective expectation in which the identity of the future family is shaped and reshaped. So these differences is striking, but what united them and what I think your project is uniquely positioned to theorize is that parenthood, when it's not biological, is not naturalized, become a temporary labor. And it's not just a sequence of events, it's a timescape in the Barbara Adams sense. Is a time where emotions, norms, vulnerabilities, delays, and future making are intertwined. And maybe you can make this more explicit in your, you can capture this concept of different temporalities, different, the distribution of different temporal labor across institutions, technologies, communities, and bodies. Your comparative work on stigma also is extremely insightful. In a ART, stigma is interiorized, is silent, is almost clandestine, and linked to infertility. Is linked to infertility, a gender sense of failures, medicalization of the body. In adoption, stigma is public, is embodied, is linked to both infertility and visible differences of the adoptive families. Is linked with racialization and the symbolic proximity to the mutation. Is managed in every public encounters, not only in private or institutional setting. So this is a powerful contrast. And I would like to ask you, how does space shape the form of that stigma takes? Because we have a digital space, but also urban and social public space. So in which way the stigma can change different space. And about the knowledge production, another strong contribution of your work is the attention to the knowledge production and knowledge circulation. In ART community, you identify what you call hybrid situated knowledge and as an intervening of medical information, experiential narrative, parascientific interpretation, emotional advice, and this vernacular biologism, from my point of view, is not a simple misinformation because this is an epistemic artifact produced within a context of uncertainty, vulnerability, and limited institutional accompaniment. So, but obviously also this point raises some question. Where does epistemic authority reside online? Is the expertise defined by lived experiences, by clinical proximity, by algorithmic visibility, by the speed of the response within the platform? So, and also another question is, what role do platforms themselves play as epistemic brokers? And in adoption, the collaborative filmmaking produces another kind of situated knowledge, co-authored, reflexive, embodied, dialogic. And this is not something found in the field, but it's produced with participants. So this raises fascinating methodological and epistemic issues. How do you negotiate the boundary between representation, self-representation, and advocacy? And what kind of truth emerge from co-creative visual practices that would not emerge from interviews alone? So I think that the comparison between these two knowledge ecologies that are digital and visual is one of the most original aspects of your project. And another striking finding across the two lines is the gender distribution of emotional and organizational labor. In ERT, we can see women carry the bodily burden, the narrative burden, and further are almost completely absent, and also from the discursive field. And this discursive absence of the fatherhood is not trivial. It's something structural. And it's also a sort of cultural script in which ART is implicitly and a women business, even if the infertility factor involves men. So. And in the adoption, preparations appears more symmetric, but post-adoption care work become unveiled again, but father are present in narratives. So this asymmetry in the visibility of father across the two domains is, I think, is something interesting, and also raises question about masculinity and reproductive vulnerability, and also about normative expectation about fatherhood. And so I would like to encourage to stress more these analytic dimensions. And finally, let me briefly comment something about methodology, because you are combining two radically different approaches, ethnography and collaborative filmmaking. And these two approaches generate different epistemic regimes, different type of truth, different ethical responsibilities. And the integration of this of the finding is not trivial, and I appreciate your transparency about the limits and the tensions. And but I wonder whether this contrast could be more explicitly theorized in your consideration. How does each method shape what become visible and what remain unsaid? And can these two epistemologies be complementary, or do they something point in opposite direction? And so to conclude, let me just highlight what I see as the major contribution of the FORTIES qualitative research. I think that FORTIES shows that no paradigmatic parenthood is not simply an expectation, exception to reproductive normality. Is a socio-technical achievement that require navigating into infrastructure, bureaucracies, platform, institution, and emotional regimes. And the analysis reveals the centrality of vulnerability, loneliness, support of network, online and offline network is shaping reproductive trajectory. And so you propose a comparative framework that has a genuine potential to reshape how sociology think about parenthood, kinship, and care. So thank you again for this excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Riccardi, for the very insightful, I think, detailed and very stimulating comments, I think. Elena, maybe in 5 minutes you want to pick up the most important points and respond before we give the floor to the second discussor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You highlighted several important themes on which we are still reflecting. So because of the richness of them, sorry for my English, I will do my best. No, it's because it's really a big reflection. So first of all, time. These kind of trajectories to parenthood start from in a situation with the phenomenon of postponement. The stigma postpone the moment of the diagnosis. So the time is a big topic from the beginning. We are working on an article focused on time because waiting is transversal, and we understood that waiting, so the absence of actions in that time, could be the moment in which we can reflect and re-signify parenthood. And this could be really a powerful construction, social construction of meaning about parenthood. In deep on about platforms and ethnography. It's really challenging because people turn online because of the waiting. But at the same time, platforms structure the time in different ways. For example, Telegram, we defined it a daily diary against loneliness because the feature of the platforms allowed users to use it as a chat. You can't reach a specific discussion, a specific topic on which someone focus on. While you can do so, we called this specific way to talk a vertical time. So in Telegram, for us, there is something as a vertical time. On Facebook, on our group, there is both vertical but always horizontal because you can reach a specific topic. On forum, this is really structured. So the time is out of forum free, and you can it's an archive. So it has another relation with time, the contents and the production of contents in this. I think I don't have so much time, so I move to the topic of stigma. Stigma is a cross-cutting experience from the infertility stigma, who marked both ART and adoption. But adoption, because of the visibility of the adoption, mostly for ethical characteristic or the age of the child, there is a big difference about the responsibility. Because in ART, responsibility is a medical one and shared, and it's up to parents mostly. On adoption, no, because social services has the responsibility to match the perfect parents for the needs of a specific child. This responsibility open to a process of rethinking, so it could be more, stigma could be more touched and change in this kind of pathways. Okay. And okay. To move on, knowledge production on ART is an hybrid one, as you said, is co-constructed by users, and mediation and the presence of experts is a big lack, but also an occasion, because on the medical information, of course, doctors are have to be doctors have to be present. But we looked at some online communities with mediation of medical staff, and this is not always a good thing, because they the spontaneous discourse is less visible. If users know that there is a doctor in the online community, they will talk less, and without untouching some specific topics. On adoption is in methodologically in this specific study is co-created, but also we know that co-created through the stories of self-selection sampling. Because of course the choice to participate to a visual output, it's a strong decision and tell our own story. So we know that this is the start of our research. And for gender distribution, I don't have one minute, okay. So I try to do to be fast. About gender distribution, there is a difference which starts from the thing that ART is bodily based. Adoption is cognitive, as a cognitive start as a cognitive parenthood. The presence of the body in the process of parenthood change the burden and make it more heavy for women. For the last thing about methods, for ethnography and collaborative filmmaking are qualitative methods. So they meet on en vivo, each other on en vivo. Ethnography has some lacks about the emerging contents of fatherhood, of people who doesn't work well on online fields or don't have the access or don't want to make them visible in these communities, and the limits of the methods on the visibility of the topic on adoption is about, I think, the representation. So the self-selection. I think we didn't reach the best stories of adoption. This is not the discrimination, but it's about who is more aware and conscious on his or her own stories. This is the big motivation that help us to find some people who want to tell us their stories. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent, that's very clear. So we can welcome and maybe exchange the position of of the skills. Okay.
I think it's broken.
We change it and use this one. Okay, so we welcome Luca Trappoli from the University of Padova.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much for the invitation. Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you. And I have a couple of questions, maybe three, to ask to Elena and to the project staff. And these questions come from the inclusion of the results achieved by the project into two alternative frameworks. Before doing that, before performing my role as a discussant, I have to introduce myself. because I think that it is important to say that I've been working on lesbian and gay parenthood since the end of the last century. And this is the reason why I am more familiar with donor conception than with adoption, because as we may know, for lesbian and gay people, adoption is a marginal option. And for lesbian and gay people coming from Italy, adoption is not an option at all. So when Elena sent me her presentation, was 10 days ago, I went directly on the art part of the research. And I have to say that I was very impressed by the methodology and also by the results that have been achieved. And from this point of view, really, I can't wait to read the articles produced by the project. And today I can say that I was involved in the blind review process of a couple of articles, and currently I am editing. I am working on the editing work of one of your articles that will be published within a few weeks in About Gender Journal. Yeah, it was my fault. So I think that findings achieved by the ethnography on ART are very meaningful in relation to the framework used by the project, which, as long as I understand it, is very focused on stigma management, the relationships with technology and with medical staff, and the lack of institutional support. But I would like to take your results and discuss them using two different types of frameworks. First one is a classic social anthropological framework focused on the social construction of kinship. From this point of view, it could be interesting to read the online exchanges between mothers who have been through ART in terms of killing and de-killing processes. Killing process relates to how the subjects make sense of the lack of biogenetic ties with the newborn. So how can mother make sense of the fact that they have not biogenetic connection with the newborn? And from this point of view, I have to say that I was quite surprised by the silence on fatherhood. It is really surprising from this point of view. And if we investigate the online exchanges through the killing to the concept of the killing process, we could ask to the material how the participants exclude donors from the realm of legitimate kinship, because me and Elena, before the conference, had a little exchange outside, and she told me that the presence of donor in the exchanges was not there. So no one talked about donors. Okay. Okay. So my first question is, could we use your material in order to understand how killing and the killing practices can arise in that online exchanges? And of course, I am more interested in the killing processes. What about donors, for example? But I have another framework, which is quite alternative. And this framework is called procreative storytelling frameworks. My point is that the formation of a family is a social experience that needs to be told. Because through the production of a family story, the subject aligns himself or herself into the institutional family and also into different intergenerational system of alliances. So it is crucial to tell the story of your family. It is crucial to tell the story of your reproductive part. Here, in this case, the main conceptual tools are related to the idea of social scripts. In order to be told, procreative story need to rely on shared cultural codes, which indicate when to tell, to whom to tell, what to tell, and more important, what it is not supposed to be told. For example, the normative procreative scripts take for granted that the newborn have biogenetic ties with both parents, who are supposed to be heterosexual parents, of course. And it is taken for granted that the newborn is the offspring of a love and intimate relationship between the mother and the father. So procreative experiences that fall outside available reproductive scripts, for example, adoption, but also transition to parenthood via ART, can be interpreted as outlaw experiences of family making, which is non-normative family stories that historically, especially in Italy, have been managed through secrecy. Okay, so the silence is the rule. The case of ART in Italy could be a relevant example of the lack of a shared procreative script, which support parents in their storytelling. At the beginning of your presentation, Elena, you show us that the access to ART is becoming increasingly diffuse in Italy, and it will be more diffuse in the near future. But I think that the normative meanings associated to family making have not been affected by ART, have not been affected yet by ART. Moreover, and this could be a second question, moreover, in many European countries, Norway, for example, Sweden, or also in England, and maybe in Denmark, there is a pressure, there is a big social pressure to tell children the truth about their genetic story. And sociologically speaking, this phenomenon is known as the turn to openness. So a good parent has the duty to tell the truth to their children about how they came into being. And so the question is, according to the material that you have collected in your online communities, the turn to openness is present also in Italy? Third question. Your case studies, yes, could be very interesting in relation to the following question: how parents who have experienced ART make sense of their transition to parenthood without relying on a procreative script? Because we don't have any rule about how to tell the procreative story in case of access of ART. And the question, if the question is how parents, how mothers in your case studies make sense of their reproductive journey without relying on a cultural script, if this is the question, the answer could be online. So online connection could be a kind of laboratory to construct, to build a script that can be used not online, but offline in order to tell the story about the genetic story of the newborn. And I think that it could be relevant to understand if and how these mothers tell the story of their transition to parenthood, to their children, to their husbands, to their relatives. So what happened online could be very useful to understand what will happen offline. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 5 minutes, your reply. Yeah, we're slightly delayed, so no. No, it's
Okay, thank you. I will try to be fast but rich. Okay. Thank you. Good points for us. And okay, for ART, stigma is the thing that push online people.
Yeah.
So what I expected at the beginning is to find some fathers and to find the reflection about what we are doing when we choose to have an ART pathway to parenthood. What did we discover is that fathers are not there, and there is not discursive and dialogic reflection, co-reflection on why we choose ART, what we expected on the medical pathway. Yes, this is the main topic, but not on the relational pathway. This is a big lack, and I was surprised because online you can be an anonymous user, so it's the perfect place where say something that which you cannot say in the real life. But what they are searching for is the legitimation of their own trajectory, to share the difficulties and the challenges, and they are doing it in a sort of agency, but also I think there is an attention because they know that is a sensitive pathway. So maybe they arrive to ask themselves, I don't know why I'm fighting so hard to be a mother, because I'm not a mother. Why I'm doing this? But this question usually doesn't open a very rich exchange, because I think also because it is a sensitive point. So you are touching an emotional labor of the other users. So I think also this could be a reason why there is this kind of lack. And pretty the same is about the donor, because it's linked to this. What they say, it's about heterologous. When users as to start a pathway with an heterologous choice, they leave this as a biological loss. Mm-hmm. But they don't treat on these platforms, on these fields, the relation with donors at all. But they expose our own loss story. And also for me, it was surprising. About the procreate storytelling, it's pretty linked to this. There is no space to have an exchange about what happens if we choose a pathway, a medical pathway that challenge the paradigm and normative trajectory to parenthood. This is the big lack. And the reason could be several. We don't have metadata to have deeper layers of meaning, of reflections. But about the truth, what I can say is that in online forum, I think it's confirmed the biological ties, because homologous is better than heterologous, but they are both ART trajectory. So this is significant. I don't know if they are going to tell their children if something after. They ask themselves something about this, but we cannot know it because they are online until the pregnancy, until the birth, sorry. After the birth, they still be there, but they interact less. Also for the sensitive and it's a sensible choice for other users that are still fighting. So they, for example, they could say, yes, I became mother this specific technique through this specific this clinic. So and then we have not so much material. For adoption, the truth is it's in the process. Social services and psychologists help parents, adoptive parents, to co-create a story, because they have to, more than ART that could be level.
Thank you very much. So I'm afraid we ran out of time, but Elena is expecting to answer your questions now with the break. So now we have a 15 minutes break, and then move to the milestone 1. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to do
Carico già la presentazione? Questo è giusto.
So we're back with the findings from the FORTIES project. Now we're going to present the quantitative evidence from the project. Elena Vettoretto will present us the results from two papers in particular. The first concerns the mental workload of Italian mothers, and the second one is about maternal regret. So Elena, the floor is yours, and you have 30 minutes to present your findings. Thank you.
You said everything, so I'll start right away. So I'm presenting two joint papers by the quantitative team. One regards the mental load, is the more advanced paper we have until now, or I'm presenting, while the one about regret is at the moment a pretty more empirical paper, so the theoretical part is not developed yet. So let's start. This is the first paper, was titled Out of Sight, Not Out of Mind, Invisible Gender Inequality, Mental Load and Fertility Intentions in Italy. So what is the mental load? Mental load can be defined as the cognitive, emotional, and managerial dimension of unpaid domestic labor. And it involves the invisible constant work of thinking, remembering, anticipating, and managing family life and relationships. Unlike physical domestic labor, the mental load goes beyond time and space and often overlaps with rest and paid work. So perhaps the most vivid way to illustrate it is through a phrase. Luckily, I'm short, so I guess you can see everything. So it is through a phrase you may have heard of even said, which is you should have asked. This is exactly what the mental load is about. So it's not about doing the task, but it's about being responsible for that task to be done. So even if help is available, if one person still has to initiate and manage everything, that person is still carrying the mental load. So this definition emphasizes three characteristics of the mental load. First, it's invisible. It happens in someone's head. You can see someone thinking or remembering an appointment to the doctor. It's boundaryless. So it doesn't happen in a specific time or space, like cooking dinner, but it can happen anytime and anywhere, like planning meals. And it's enduring. It doesn't switch off when a task is done. It's a kind of background presence, like a cognitive noise. These features make it hard to measure and even harder to divide equally. The literature has identified three dimensions of the mental load. There's a cognitive dimension, which refers to the constant work of thinking, remembering schedules, anticipating family needs, and so on. There's a managerial dimension, which is more active and refers to the constant work of planning, coordinating, managing family life, and also delegating tasks. And there's an emotional dimension, which is the affective burden, which involves the constant worrying, but also feeling responsible for others' well-being, or even carrying the guilt if something doesn't go as planned. This distinction is key because not every dimension may have the same impact on people's lives. So what do we know about the mental load? First, is not surprisingly disproportionately carried by women. And second, there is some evidence that is negatively correlated with well-being. Indeed, it may contribute to stress and reduced energy for paid work. However, this is not necessarily true for every dimension. For example, the cognitive and managerial dimension have been found to be positively associated with well-being. Little we know about its association with family dynamics and fertility intentions. So the aim of this work is to fill this research gap by investigating how mental load and perceived gender inequality in mental load relate to mothers' fertility intentions in Italy. So I'll try to be fast on this. Building on a well-established literature that links gender equity, domestic labor, and well-being to fertility, we developed 5 hypotheses. So first argument, when women enter the labor market but men do not increase accordingly their share of domestic and care work, women face a double burden of paid and unpaid work. This second shift and the perceived imbalance may in turn discourage women from having additional children. We extend this reasoning to the invisible side of domestic labor, and we expect that greater perceived inequality and a heavier overall maternal mental load are associated with lower intention to have additional children. Past research has demonstrated how fathers' participation in childcare may help the transition to a second child. However, findings are mixed across countries. What we also know is that fathers tend to over-report their involvement, and what is crucial in this sense is how mothers perceive their partners as involved. So when mothers perceive their partners as more engaged, they experience a sense of shared responsibility, and this sense of shared responsibility may act as a buffer against the double burden. So these considerations lead to our third hypothesis, which is higher levels of mental load perceived by the partner are associated with higher fertility intentions. So bringing together with these considerations, we ask whether the association between the perceived inequality and fertility intentions depends on the intensity of mental load. We identify 2 possible mechanisms, the amplification, so when mothers perceive a medium to high mental load, the perceived inequality may discourage childbearing, fertile childbearing, and the buffering, so when mother perceive their partner as more engaged, the negative impact of inequality weakens as the mental engagement provides emotional and organizational support. So this is our fourth hypothesis. The negative association of the mental load gap is strongest when mother's own load is medium or high, and weakest when the partner's load is high. So finally, breaking down the mental load into its three dimensions, we expect the cognitive and managerial dimension to be positively associated with fertility intentions, and as they may act as a challenge stressor, so a stimulating factor, while we expect the emotional load to be negatively associated with fertility intentions. So the analytical sample for this work relies on a total of 2,300 mothers of one child aged between 20 and 45 and who are in a relationship. The dependent variable is fertility intention, measured on a self-anchoring scale from 1 to 10, indicating the respondent's intention to have additional children within the next 3 years. Independent variables. We have a total of actually 9 independent variables referring to the mental load, which are maternal own mental load, the partner's mental load as perceived by the mothers, the gap, which is the difference between the two loads, and the 3 single dimensions of the mental load, so cognitive, managerial, and emotional, both for mothers and partners. These variables derive from a mental load scale with 7 items, which was adapted and inspired by an original and recently validated scale designed specifically to address the mental load. This is the distribution of overall mental load. So solid and blue line for mothers, and dashed the orange line for partners, as perceived, of course, by the mothers. The vertical line represents the mean values. So as we can see, there's the true distribution differs substantially, with mothers reporting substantially higher levels of mental load than what they perceive about their partners, so indicating a clear perceived asymmetry in the mental responsibility carried within the couples. So these are the results from our regression models, 3 separate models, each one addressing each of the 3 first hypotheses. So first, the gap is negatively associated with fertility intentions, and so is maternal load. So the higher the gap, the lower the fertility intentions, and the higher the maternal mental load, the lower the fertility intentions. While on the opposite, there's a positive relationship between partners' mental load and fertility intention. That is, when mothers perceive their partners as more engaged, their fertility intentions are higher. This is the interaction between categories of the mental load and the gap. The left panel for mothers and the right panel for partners. On the horizontal axis, we have the gap and predicted fertility intentions on the right. So again, results are in line with expectations. So when mothers perceive a higher mental load, the relationship between the gap and fertility, the negative relationship between the gap and fertility intentions is stronger. So specifically, we have a non-significant relationship when the mental load is lower. We have a clear negative association with when the mental load is medium. And we have the most evident negative association when mothers perceive their mental load as high. So that means the perception of inequality is particularly detrimental for women, for mothers who already experience a very high mental load. On the opposite, as expected, when mothers perceive their partners as having a low mental load, the relationship between the gap and the fertility intentions is stronger. Finally, so breaking down the mental load into its 3 dimensions, there's a negative relationship looked at mothers, so the left panel. There's a negative relationship and significant relationship between the emotional load and fertility intentions. While for partners, the only statistically significant dimension is the managerial load. So I guess going to the conclusions, the perceived inequality in mental load is strongly negatively associated with fertility intentions. Higher mother's mental load is associated with lower fertility intentions, and the perceived partner's involvement is positively associated with mother's fertility intentions. The perception of inequality is particularly detrimental for mothers who already have a high mental load, and the emotional load is the one that discourages women from having other children. But what encourages them is seeing the partner handling the organizational side of family life. So this is the second paper about regret, which is only 5 minutes. Which is titled "Wishing to Turn Back Time, Motherhood Regret and Fertility Intentions in Italy." Okay. So just to introduce the topic, motherhood is often idealized as a natural and fulfilling stage of life, but reality doesn't always align with this narrative. The pivotal work by Donath, Regretting Motherhood, brought to the attention the fact that some mothers will be better off child-free. But some of these women described being pressured into motherhood by pervasive social norms. And this, of course, challenges the cultural assumptions that motherhood is universally rewarding. So what Donath did is to show that regret is not about regretting one's child, but about regretting the institution of motherhood itself. As said, some of these women describe how they became mothers because of strong social pressures by family, partners, and society as a whole. But once they became mothers, they realized that motherhood didn't bring the fulfillment they had been promised. So what Donath did is to break a powerful taboo. And by doing so, it opened the way for research to treat regret not as an individual psychological factor, but as a socially embedded experience. We now have 10 minutes. Okay.
We have a few minutes more.
What we know about regret? Not much. Not much. Qualitative research reports how regret often arises when motherhood requires excessive sacrifices, disrupts one's identity, or in general fails to provide the fulfillment society promises. So these studies in general highlight this disconnection between reality and expectations. Quantitative studies instead are very, very few. They in general report very low levels of regret. So we don't know much about regret and its determinants, and even less we know about its association with family dynamics and fertility intentions. But I guess I'll skip this one. So our first research question is, how is regret associated with fertility intentions? But regret doesn't actually occur in a vacuum. So how women make sense of it may depend on the cultural lenses through which they see motherhood. In Italy, cultural expectations are strongly shaped by the myth of motherhood. So the idea that a good mother is selfless and naturally fulfilled by caregiving. This idea reinforces traditional gender roles and makes, in this context, regret even more disruptive because it contradicts the dominant expectation. So going very fast, our second research question asked if the relationship between regret and fertility intentions varies by gender role attitudes. Analytical sample for this study is composed by mothers of one child divided into two age groups, those who had their first child under the age of 35 and those who had their first child over the age of 35. Key variables, fertility intentions as a dependent variables, the same of the other paper. And for regret and gender role attitudes, so through these scales and through item response theory models, we derive 3 variables, which is 1 latent variable of regret and 2 latent variables for gender role attitudes, one referring to the equality dimension in the domestic and public sphere, and the other one referring to gender role attitudes towards childcare. Well, these are the items of our regret scale. The first 6 items come from original validated scale, and the last 2 items are ours. This is the distribution of regret. Regret here is just the arithmetic mean of the items. Again, vertical lines represented mean values. So as we can see, both age groups are largely concentrated towards the very low end of the distribution, with younger mothers having slightly higher levels of regret than older mothers. So these are the result of regression models. Basic and full model for the total sample. The full model only adds the 2 gender roles variables. Regret is consistently negatively associated with fertility intentions, and so is gender role attitude in its equity dimensions, while the childcare dimension is not statistically significant. Splitting by age, we have the same pattern. So regret negatively associated with fertility intention, that is, the higher the regret, the lower the fertility intentions. And same for gender roles attitudes as before. So let's go to the interesting part. In a third model, we had the interaction between regret and gender role attitudes. This is a contour plot showing the predicted fertility intentions across the 2 variables. Here we only show the statistically significant dimension, which is the equality one. So as we can see, warmer colors for higher fertility intentions, colder colors for lower fertility intentions. So egalitarian mothers have lower fertility intentions than traditional mothers, and fertility intentions decline with regret. But this decline is much sharper for egalitarian women. They start with pretty high levels, pretty high fertility intentions, so around 7, when they have medium to high levels of regret, or there, the green part, they have already lower fertility intention. When they have the highest regret, they have the lowest fertility intentions. Traditional mothers, they have very high fertility intentions when regret is 0, but they maintain pretty high fertility intentions also when regret is highest. So they start with an orange corner around 8, and they finish with actually pretty high fertility intention, so with this yellow corner. So we, speaking by age again, we have more or less the same pattern for mothers under 35. Again, egalitarian mother maintain pretty high fertility intentions, while for egalitarian mothers, their intentions decline more sharply. More interesting and quite surprisingly, the older mothers. Traditional older mothers have very high fertility intentions when regret is 0, and their intentions remain stable through the regret line, also with this darker corner when regret is highest. On the opposite, egalitarian women have relatively high fertility intentions when regret is lowest, and they end up with this deep sea blue when regret is highest. To conclude, regret is consistently negatively associated with fertility intentions. Younger mother, their intentions decline with regret, especially among those egalitarian, and gender roles matter. So when regret increases, egalitarian women show a sharper drops in intentions compared to traditional ones. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Elena. So now, please, the two discussants we have invited to comment on these findings can join us here. So, Trude Lappegard and Maria Letizia Tanturri. Have you decided who comes first?
I think I'm first in the list.
Okay, great. So, shall we start by Trude? With Trude. You have 10 minutes each. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. There is no presentation.
Yes, I closed there.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that, okay. Okay. You want to start?
Okay.
Okay, first, thank you so much for inviting me to come here as to both learn about this fantastic project about motherhood and fertility, and also to be a discussant. I have enjoyed very much listening to all the presentations, and the last one I have also I got some material, so I have been able to prepare some comments. But both studies you present are very fresh, and they offer very creative insights into the layered realities of motherhood and fertility among women. So as you have shown, the first paper probes how gender equality, or the lack of gender equality in the private sphere, shapes fertility intention, drawing attention to the invisible inequalities, the mental load of organizing family lives and juggling all the nitty-gritty details, and carrying the unseen labor that shapes everyday choices. And the second study takes an even thornier topic, women who regret motherhood, and how that regret feedbacks into fertility intentions. It's a bold and it's an important angle. After all, having children is one of the least reversible decisions we make in the life. And taken together, these two papers shows that the hidden burden at home and even the active regret about being a parent both push people away from wanting more children. And I find, as long as I saw what you showed me, the both studies seems very well executed. So I haven't focused on the details in this, and my comments are then more a little broader and zooming out a little bit. And I'm trying to link your studies into this a broader studies and stories about gender equality and expectations about motherhood, and also a little on fatherhood. And I might ask some rhetorical questions, which I'm not expecting you to have a good answer to it necessarily, but you can try if you like. But it's more to open up to continue the conversation about these issues. And so that both the issues of gender equality and expectations about motherhood and fatherhood these are changing forces. And where this gender gap in the division of paid work and the division of unpaid work is still present in all countries. But the distribution of paid work has become more equal on the labor work, and is also happening in a considerable faster pace than the distribution of unpaid domestic labor. And for long, we used the label the second shift to capture gender equality at home. And the unpaid housework and care work then followed as then the second shift of the paid work of women. And there has been, in many countries, there has been a shrinking gender gap in the household chores and the hours people spend on this course. But that is more, or it's less about that men suddenly started to do more housework, but it's more about women not doing housework anymore, or they're doing the bare minimum. So then the organizing of family lives, the endless planning, the juggling, the invisible to-do list builds on the second shift. And is then have also been referred to as the third shift. And so why is it now that this invisible job feels so big and so familiar to most women? And why is it becoming more visible now? This was something, is it because we start talking about it, or is it something else changing? Or has it even been a way to replace the second shift? Has it replaced the second shift in a way? If the second shift has become smaller, has this third shift taken a bigger space? And you describe the mental load as a mixture of cognitive, emotional, and manageable work. And much of this work is relating to parenting. And I wonder if this ties into then the literature on intensified parenthood and parenting. So if the intensified parenting, where modern parents then they invest substantially more time and emotional energy into child rearing than they did in the past. So in other words, could it be that this intensification of parenting then amplified the mental load in a way? And so is then the decline in women's housework partly an optical shift? Fewer dishwashing hours, but far more time spent navigating kids' schedule, homework and activities, and all about the parenting. So in short, is then women swapping visible chores with this invisible mental work. So that's one big question. And I think this ties back to the expectations about motherhood, not just about the social norms, but also the standard women set for themselves about what is appropriate mothering. And sometimes it feels like mothers are expected. I don't know if it's all from the society or it's also from themselves, that they are supposed to be working as they didn't have children, and they should be mothering as they didn't work. And in this thing, there is a huge amount of mental load, I would assume. And so, yes, gender equality with men stepping up at home, it is increasing. And it's a key to having a sustainable work-family balance. But I don't think we should then ignore the other half of this equation. So is this pressure of this intensified parenting and being the perfect mother and doing it all, and the standard women set for themselves, is that canceling out some of these gains from men's increased participation? And so maybe then a little provocative question is, can we realistically expect to share the mental load while leaving expectation about motherhood unchanged? So in other words, would it be possible to split the to-do list without rewriting then the rule book on what a good mother should look like? As I said, this might be a provocative question, but I want to stir up some discussion. So when mothers say that regret having children, what do they actually mean? And you rightly here emphasize that it's not literal that they wish not to have the children should be born, but there might be mourning their former life. They might feel overwhelmed by parenting, or they're reacting to the heavy expectation placed as them as mothers. And this reminds me of something a former student of mine. She was interviewing women who explicitly said that they didn't want to have children. So this was young women in the age group 28 to 34. And one of these women, she said that I would have had a child if I could be the father. So it's a sharp line, but it tells you a lot about gender expectations and who carries the cost of parenting. And I read the comments to mean it wasn't parenthood itself that she resisted, but unequal expectations that comes with being a mother. And if fatherhood carried the same demands and scrutiny, she might have been open to have children. So, so that is sort of all of these issues. I think both these papers can land more also, or can be pulled in the direction of both these two topics. And I must say that I always bring up fathers and fatherhood, and the lack of, if anyone have done a study without fathering, I'm the first one to ask for it. But I must also say that I appreciate that this project have mainly focused on mothering and motherhood. And that's also because motherhood is changing. And the expectations towards mothering is changing. And right now, we don't understand all that is happening and the implication of what's happening. And so I think there is need of this specific project focusing only on on mothering. I do believe that. So then, but then of course, as a next step, that could be, but I still think we need to ask we don't know what to ask, so we need to get the stories behind, and then these two papers that you have done, creating new aspects that I haven't seen, that zooming into these issues, and this can raise some new questions that we might get new answers to in the future. So again, congratulate you with well, you did the presentation, so you can get some of the main credits here. The others is just sitting there listening to you and enjoying you doing all the work. But I very much look forward to seeing the papers in print.
We as well.
Yeah. So thank you again. You don't have?
Yeah, a few more minutes.
Yeah, you want to respond, or was the?
Well, it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So,
but you don't need to.
Many considerations, and I'm quite overwhelmed from the it doesn't work.
I can clean some of my notes and then send it to you if you like.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was a precious feedback, many feedbacks, and many things to consider and to reconsider. Maybe not about a paper, but about future prospects of the project as a whole. So yes, I don't really know what to.
You know, I told you before that I don't. This is more of a commentary than questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of you want to.
We can come back to some of it in the panel discussion, maybe.
During the roundtable, we can react to.
Yeah. Yes.
Elaborate no, I just have to elaborate the thinking.
Yeah. We will switch days.
Yes, like this is so that Maria Letizia can manage the presentation.
No.
I wanted to be through the Lapelgard for a while. Didn't mind at all. Just for one day. Okay. I'm in the same line of Trude. I really love this to be discussant of these two papers. It was the occasion to read them and to reflect about, I think, two aspects that are unusual in a way, because, we have several papers studying determinants of short-term fertility intentions, but I think you focus on two aspects that are hidden. So out of sight, but not out of mind, because I think I didn't find anything about Italy on these two aspects. So I think the merit of FORTIES groups is to have collected extremely valuable survey data on a sample of young Italian women that, of course, is a bit under studied, because we have this large survey, but they are old, and they don't allow us to get into this deep analysis. So congratulations to all the authors and to the project leaders and to everybody. And also because usually we can find some study based maybe on qualitative data, but of course, this is much more ambitious, I think, because it's try to provide general results in a way. So I think this is very important because this topic in the Italian context are still very relevant, very relevant in general, but in the Italian context, because we very well know that women continue to bring most of the burden of domestic chores and care activities. And this happened today, despite of the fact that they are more educated, women are more in the labor market. Most of the couples now are, especially in the younger cohorts, are dual income. But we still find an extraordinary quantity of time that women spend in domestic chores and care activities. That is disproportionately high with respect to other women living in other countries, and also disproportionately high with respect to their partners. So this is what is visible in with data, time use data or other survey data. And and I think this is part explained by the fact that we are family-state countries where the family is an important agency providing a lot of services that maybe somewhere else are provided by policies or the states and so on. We have a high standard of domestic comforts, but of course, you, I think, pointed out that there is a sort of filmmaker behind this that coordinate everything and have a lot of work. Also in the invisible work, I expect that is higher, but I don't know whether there are other studies in other countries to compare this, because it could be interesting to see this in a comparative terms. I don't know if Norwegian women have this mental load comparable to the Italian or so on. I think Italy is also very a bit sad in commenting these results, but I think part of the story also behind what you find on inequalities in mental load is linked to the traditional gender values that still persist. Well, it's interesting that most of the population, for instance, say that it's important that the house is always tidy and clean. I don't know whether in other countries or in other contexts it's the same, but this is very, important actually. And I also very surprised that in the last line, in the very bottom, that still about half of the sample with the gender difference, but not that big, that is better for family that the man devotes himself mainly to the economic needs and the women take care of the home. So, I mean, the mental load seems, the results of that, but can be also results of another aspect that maybe is less studied, that is the so-called the gatekeeping, because we realize that more or less half of the samples say that men perform domestic tasks as well as women, just 45 and 42%. That means that 60% say, oh no, men are not very good in doing that. So, I mean, this could be also, a reflection on what is behind this imbalance in gender roles within house. But anyway, just to provide what is visible, this is the asymmetry index in unpaid work within the couple by the age of both partners. So even if we consider a couple of where both partners are young, there is this disproportionate burden on women, and things are not changing so much according to the age of the partners. So I think that in this picture, your papers really go farther. It's great, and I think that there is a great idea not to focus just on the division of unpaid work at home and inequalities, but also these hidden inequalities in mental workload. so the invisible inequality. However, as I studied the other side, the visible side of the coin, I would like to have a combination of the two things, the hidden and not, not hidden, that could provide maybe an overall picture of the, the women's burden that is made of, practical things that they really make, and also this mental load in organizing, in being involved in thinking about. So I was on the train this morning, and I was commuting from Bassano. I was rereading the papers, and I also checked the electronic register of school register of my children to justify his absence. And at the same time, my husband called me saying, what is the time for the doctors? What is the scheduled time of the doctors? We have this doctor for many years, and fine. So I say, okay, it's me. It's what we talk about. And as I said, I'm studying the visible coin, and in a paper just published in 2025, we found that this inequality matters for women in the intention to have to have a child. And so also it's nice to see that also the mental work is important. However, I have some doubt on the third hypothesis, because I think that if both partners are stressed with mental load, it's possible that there is a positive effect for women's intention, but we don't know what matters among men, because probably if they feel very stressed, maybe they decide not to want to have children at all. So it would be very interesting to see what men think, and and it's very difficult to deal with men, because usually our models are based more on women, and it's okay. But I know that you cannot have a lot of money to interview men. I understood that, but I think that maybe the major weakness of this paper is the fact that if you want to study the gap between the mental load of men and women, to have just a reported the perceived mental load of men reported by women can be a bit, of course, it's a bit endogenous, because maybe according also to gender values and so on, maybe women can report differently. Also, maybe they are in a very unfair situation, but the fact that they believe that they are major responsible, maybe we say, okay, no, we are equally sharing things, and it's not true. And this is true also for, gender division of paid work. It's the same. When women report, they report also according to their perspective and lens. So it can be a bit, tricky. Yeah, then I realized that you only interview parents in the so my question is okay, senseless. Yeah, the other things that maybe you can just think about is the fact that the excessive mental workload could be also the effect of this gatekeeping of women that think to be, the best in doing things and to want to maintain their role in deciding what to eat or what to do, how to organize the day and so on. So maybe, and then maybe it would be nice to think, because we think about policy, and it's very difficult to think about policies in these terms, how to alleviate this mental workload is. Well, but maybe you can have ideas on it. Oh, coming to the second point, I'm less familiar with this, but well, when I read that you and another authors say that this motherhood regret can come from this disconnection between social narratives surrounding parenthood and the lived experience of parents who feel unsuited for the role. Well, I compared a little bit on the narrative that I perceived at the moment in Italy. I don't think it's so idyllic, so positive. I think now the narrative is much more, focused on difficulties in fatherhood and motherhood, especially motherhood. And in surveys appears that even women and men that say, okay, we would like to have children, they say that a child could make worse, they can destroy some aspect of their lives, couple life, work, career, or other things. So even if those who want to have children have this negative idea of the impact of children in their own lives. So I wonder whether there are other aspects that could be behind this regret. For instance, to the rotten kid. So you have a kid that don't respond to your expectations, or maybe your partner is not adequate in the childbearing experience, or you lost career opportunities, or maybe you lost your free leisure time, or other things that could be. Moreover, I was wondering whether you have information if the birth was planned since the beginning, because you have you interview mother, and did you ask whether this birth was planned? That is a tricky question.
They started thinking about having children, when the couple started thinking about having children. So how much time before having a child they...
But if you had a child by chance, or maybe because
no, it's their request.
You kind of extrapolate it from the answer, because they say they never thought about it.
Okay. No, because I think this could be an aspect, because maybe you haven't planned, so then you say, okay, I want to keep it, and then you discover that you don't like it. That could be a possibility. And then because I wasn't not so sure about that, but I think that all the women report a higher level overall regret than the younger ones. Yes, as far as I understood.
So yes, the older mothers report lower levels of regret, yes.
Okay, because I was wondering whether this can be correlated with the age itself, or with the age of the child, because maybe, if you have a teenager child is very challenging, and you say, oh, I want to give you an adoption because I cannot give you anymore. And so that could be, or maybe the age of the mother, because it's a sort of middle-age crisis, or I don't know. No, it's not that one. No, okay. Then finally, I think it's not so clear how you measure, for me, but maybe I lost something. How do you measure gender role attitudes, or do you measure gender role attitudes in this paper?
A scale, which is the one used in the International Social Survey Program.
Okay, so it's okay. Yeah, but what is exactly the mechanism? The mechanism for linking because you say maybe the gender egalitarian women are more capable to choose what they want, and so they don't regret motherhood because they really wanted and decided. Or what is the link between the mechanism, according to your? Because this was not so clear to me, at least, but maybe.
We didn't really discuss the mechanism yet.
It's like
higher self-realization into the family sphere, compared to women that are more projected into a career, so they are more fulfilled.
Okay, that is more.
The other way to live in the area of sort of.
Okay.
The family itself, so they like find
but
the reward, the social reward in the family, they see the social reward in the.
Okay, so maybe you have to explain a little bit more because I was a bit confused about what you want to measure in a way. Well, yeah, and then well, I read through the items to measure regret, and well, they are different. I mean, there are some items that are very, direct. So without a child, my life would be better. So it's quite strong. But there are other things that seems to be, you are a moment of, you are tired, you are a bit overwhelmed, and you say, oh, sometimes I'm so tired that I regret having had a child. But as far as I understood, the rating has the same value for regret in both items. So, I mean, yeah, it can be, maybe it's feasible doing like that, but I was suggesting maybe to do a factor analysis to see whether there are some, conjunctural factors or something that really you understand that is not your life, being a mother or so on. And last comment, yeah, I think it's super interesting, but maybe, the negative relationship between motherhood regret and fertility intention, I found it a little obvious in the sense that if you have well, in Italy, it's very difficult to decide to have the second child, even if you are happy. If you are not, I think it's something that is, so maybe I would be, emphasize more all the factors leading to regret, all the characteristics of women rather, but these results that, yeah, is not surprising, but I think it was not surprising for you. I mean, unless
Well, Elena, maybe, I don't know if you have more
finally.
points to discuss. Thank you very much. In 2 minutes, you can maybe wrap it up and provide the answers
we'll
to
discuss
direct
later.
questions. And also, I don't know if you want to comment on.
Well, also on the last point, well, yes, of course, the negative relationship with regret was pretty much expected, but also we had this surprising result on the traditional women, which would choose to have additional children despite regret, also even if regret is highest. And I mean, in the Italian context, but also in general, having highest level of regret is pretty a big thing. And well, these women would have children despite it. So I mean, yes, the result is surprising, but not all the results are surprising, as we can see on the traditional side. So very fast, I don't know if you want to say something about the regret scale or the measure. So,
we use the graded response theory model, so the analysis allows you to see which items are stronger or more difficult to get. So items like I regret children, it was like the season. Those items are more difficult to answer, so they are related to
higher accent and that's why the with the narrative emotion, so it is like so for these are less
Okay, perfect. You want to add then something?
No, I guess we'll have a chat later.
Yeah,
Okay.
then I can.
So thank you very much. We can take a break. Also, no, yes, yeah, yes. Boss. So we're moving to the very last part of the morning. Let me first welcome Alessandra De Cataldo, the third PI of the project. That thanks to the unsupportive contribution of Trenitalia is later to the discussion. Tell us whether you want to join or Elena wants to join instead. So I invited to Ilaria Picardi, who della Yes, I met the video here. We have 5 seats, so we can stay together. And Livia can see. The order, Minello, Lappegard, De Cataldo, Picardi. Okay. No, it's the same. I can sit here because I moderated it. Well, sit wherever you.
Iniziamo senza slide.
Okay. Okay. So we will have Elena Vettoretto instead of Alessandra. Sorry, Elena Andreoni instead of yes.
Vieni qua, no, non
I'll be the first, then Trude, then Elena, and Ilenia, and finally Livia. I am the lucky one with the microphone incorporated. I will go without the slides just to give you some. So first of all, thanks for all the discussion we have had this morning. This is kind of the conclusive part of the morning. Then we will have the afternoon together. But during this conclusive part, it is a moment that we take to resonate again about our results, to give you some additional information we had from our project, and also to think about the future. Also, some elements already emerged from the comments of the discussants, but some new, I hope, that will emerge from this roundtable. First of all, one thing I would like to specify is about the choice we made when we started to look at the age of mothers. Since, as you have seen, the project was about late fertility. FORTIES was a really well-centered and efficient name, but actually the threshold we choose is different because it is 35. So just to give you an idea, we have already seen some results which differ by the age at first childbirth, but I will give you some more details. This is the age that, from a medical point of view, is considered as the threshold where a mother enters when becoming a mother is connected with advanced maternal age. That means additional screenings and guidelines that go with it, And so I'm really a medical threshold that we tried to incorporate into the study of fertility. This is actually the original focus of the project, to give ideas of what does postponement basically means. Because we are used, especially in demography, not in sociology, to look at postponement just more as an idea, or just as a postponement or having kids late, but we do not reflect on the mechanisms or the consequences that having a child later might have. We found several results about it. For example, if we think about fertility intentions, basically, they are lower for mothers who have had their first child after 35, if compared to those who have had their first child before 35. But also the experience of childbirth is very different. For example, youngest mothers basically are more likely to experience a spontaneous vaginal delivery if compared to older mothers. On the contrary, in contrast, the prevalence of unplanned interventional birth is higher among those who have their child later than at 35 or later. If we look at the connection between the type of delivery and fertility intention, we find that vaginal delivery is the one which is related to higher fertility intentions. And more specifically, once we look at the specific type of deliveries and unplanned interventional deliveries, we find that in particular for older mothers, having an induced vaginal delivery means having a reduction in their fertility intentions. This is an additional point we want to bring to the table. Then there are also other aspects that we studied from the perspective of the age of the mother. For example, the fact of participating to antenatal courses, prenatal courses. Also, participating to prenatal courses is not equal between class ages. Older mothers participate more to prenatal courses, and at the same time, for them, the predicted probability, so the probability of having high fertility intentions is much more connected with the fact of having or not participated to an antenatal course during.
Speaking of the first.
Yes, just to be clear, I'm talking about mothers who have had only one child, and we ask about the fertility intentions to have the second child. If the mothers the older mother participated to antenatal courses, their fertility intentions are higher if compared to the mothers who did not take antenatal courses during the first pregnancy, basically. This mechanism doesn't work for younger mothers. So the antenatal course is not there. Of course, this can have several meanings. It might be related to higher investment in motherhood, but also higher needs of reinforcing their self-efficacy, or higher needs to be calmed in their fears towards motherhood, which might be very different according to the age when they become mothers. Finally, so the first point was about the type of delivery. The second point was about the fact of taking antenatal courses. The third one relates to positive childbirth. You might be aware of, but I tell you that the World Health Organization defines a positive delivery as a delivery that respects the expectations of a woman. It is culturally situated. Expectations about delivery
in Italy might be different from the one in Norway and extremely different from the one in Ghana, for example. We are also studying whether these expectations are diverse according to the age of the mother at first childbirth, so which are the determinants of these expectations, and whether the expectations are connected with respected expectations, and a positive childbirth is connected with the intention of having another child. Again, we are talking about women with only one child. What we found is that younger mothers tend to report a more positive childbirth experience than the older mothers. And actually also that younger mothers who have delivery which is worse than they expected tend to reduce their expectation to have another child. This happens only for the younger mothers. While for the older mothers, it happens the contrary. When the older mothers, who in mean have lower correspondence between their expectations and the positive childbirth, when they experience a delivery which is better than the one they expected, they tend to have higher fertility intentions. So this was just to go back to the original aim of the project, and also to tell you something more, to tell you basically that what we wanted with this project was also to consider childbirth and as an experience, and not only as an event, as we are used to do basically when we look at it with only the demographic eyes. This is not, of course, this is not something that we want to be substituting all the economic and structural elements that characterize the definition of fertility intentions and the fertility trajectory. It is something that we expect to be complementary to them. In all our papers, we of course include the variables that control for that tell us something about the economic situation of the family. So this is basically the starting point of this round table. I will ask you some questions about it, but also about your expertise. I will start with Trude, asking her please to emphasize also this economic part that we have somehow not included, well, included but not focused on in this presentations, and maybe can be an additional source of inequalities also when we look at the experience of childbirth.
But yeah, it's a little mind-blowing with all the new information. It was a lot of interesting results you had there. But no, your project is not about economic issues, and I appreciate that actually, because if we in every project should have everything in, then we cannot zoom in on anything. Then it's just the overall. And of course, you could always say that the economic issues are important, but so is what you have are doing. When you talk about this expectations about delivery, type of delivery, and all of these different aspects that you you are raising, which is a lot about, I don't know what the best word is, maternity care. Is that a good word for it? Yeah, and that's something. It's also in the Norwegian discussion is been brought up more, and I think women are expecting things differently now that they did before, and I think that's also have an age component. As you when you talk, it sounds like it has an age component, but I would also think that it has an socio-economic factor, So not necessarily economic uncertainty and that sort of thing, but a socioeconomic factor. And when people have children later, many have like there's more women with higher education who are the first when they have their first child. And they are not putting up with what people did in the past, I think. They have more requirement, stronger expectations. So that could also be an important factor in this. And so when you talked, I was also started to think about like all this, because we see all these debates also at home, like in Norway, where young women, they have maybe they have seen too much on internet, or they have shouldn't have seen internet, like they should have seen other stuff on internet. So many are very scared about giving birth. They feel violated during they have like they say they are violated during the birth. But maybe is that they don't have a realistic expectation of what a birth is all about. And they see influencers talk about like how there is, and things are very glorified in a way, or they only see the really horrible things. But I think also the care system hasn't caught up with all these new expectations, which means that so they are like, how do we deal with all this? So instead, they, at least where, I don't know how it's Italy, but in Norway, it seems that they are a little defensive at the moment. So that's where the discussion are. So there's a little clash. And I'm sure that has something to do, like it influences fertility intentions. But if you ask me how you could bring this further, so I agree with this, but to look it also into this, the influence of the care, the maternity care, also from the perspective of what they actually receive, so that we understand more the interaction in the care. Is that something you wanted me to? But because that's, I do believe it's to have more about what people are expecting, and why, if it's not that they have a positive or negative, what do they actually expect would happen, and is that age dependent? Another thing that I came to mind when you talked about that, it seems that young women are more flexible if they, and changing their mind if they had a positive experience, if they were a little scared. Might be that those are a little older when they have their first child. Could it be that they have waited long before because they were scared of the birth itself, so that and they just confirmed what happened, like they got confirmed what they thought it would be like, or I don't know. It's but it's to me it for sure is so much new dimensions that we haven't that we don't know anything about. So motherhood in itself, you point out to these three very specific, but I want also raise one other aspect. And so because we one thing is those who had their child, like, so all these have had a child, but also we had the other flip side of those who choose not to have children. So, and the decision making about whether to have a child or not seems to have changed more for the last 15, 20 years. And I think we start to see that more and more, that it's becoming more of a choice to have a child, and not something only it's expected of you. It's so it's more of a choice now than in the past. So we need the stories, not only from the women who had children, but also the stories from those who didn't have children. I think that the stories are, and we don't know how to ask the right questions yet. So that's why we need the qualitative research on, and we also need like what they say online and all of that, like in the out there. What's the And then we can ask the right questions in the next step. Because right now I don't think we're asking the right questions.
I totally agree. In an ideal world, this project would move to a new survey with a panel survey where also we ask women about their fear about the delivery or the pregnancies and so on. Well, fingers crossed, who knows, maybe in the future we will be able to do it. On the other side, I strongly agree with you that the qualitative part is the one that helps us to cover, to make a bridge between what we know and what we don't know, and how to ask. This is completely important. In fact, I think that from the qualitative part, and I would ask to Elena, there is something that emerged, which is really connected with emotions, something that we often lack to measure in a proper way, or at least we try to do it. We have several questions about emotions, but not that cannot make all the aspects emerge as you have done in the qualitatives part. And I was curious to know which is the major risk, basically, that you identified that bring people who go also with non-paradigmatic trajectories toward parents to meet online and to discuss about this fear and so on.
Yes, a big part was about emotions on ART. And through the ethnography, we studied it. Maybe the major risk, to be synthetic, it's the manage of these emotions, because we collected materials and studying it, we observed fear, hope, the feeling of a strong decision, but sometimes not so much. So a push and pull among different and not convergent emotions.
You can use the slides.
Yes, okay, sorry.
Slides. No, la 4 sopra, l'altra 4. La 4 in PowerPoint.
Quella sopra ancora? Quella.
Un attimo che metto in condivisione su Zoom.
Sì. Io prendo il telefono perché non ho il tempo.
Okay, we try to have a comprehensive and a comprehensive point of view of what we observed, trying to compare different trajectories to parenthood. So loneliness emerged as a risk of isolation. So this is a common feature across all parenting experiences, although its forms vary depending on the trajectories. We know mostly about physiological pregnancies, a well-known imbalance of expectations and workloads mirroring gendered roles. In ART experiences, there is a heavily clinical experience of loneliness with limited accompaniment and few spaces, mostly filled by female presence. And in adoption's trajectory, there is more support at the beginning, but loneliness during the waiting and the post-adoption, as I already present before. Here, a comparison between ART and adoption, loneliness especially along the medical pathway, and but in the adoptions we have loneliness before social services assessment and in the post-adoption phase. Support is missing for art in institutional pathways and in social networks, so people turn online to find emotional support and informational support. Instead, in adoption, support is missing with few spaces to talk and in institutional spaces and peer-to-peer spaces. Support is fragmented, time limited, or insufficient. Stigma, as we already highlight, is around for ART infertility, and for adoption, infertility, adoption, and racism framework. Here, maybe we were talking about these roles and workload. This is a comparison. There is an emotional workload unbalanced in physiological pregnancies, skewed against women. In ART, high and intermittent, with peaks linked to weight up and outcomes. Yes, stigma and social pressure burden often on women as well. On adoption, high and stressing, but more distribute and shared between the people in the couple. There is also a sanitary workload, a clinical workload in physiological pregnancy, mostly centered on the mother during pregnancy and birth. In ART, very high, highly centered on female body. And for adoption, limited and shared with service support. So, preparatory workload helps to reflect on the construction of parenthood. In physiological pregnancies, is limited to antenatal classes with high variability. ART presents the absence of support spaces. And adoption has structured, but before the adoption. Risks are related to loneliness, the chronicization and crystallization of difficulties that are predictable and inherent to parenting and to specific trajectories, and distress for parents, and so for all the family unit. As a protective factor, maybe could be a form of parenthood conscious, so the ability to recognize needs and limits of each component, engaged by both the parent, so the whole couple, prepared to focus on which could be the risk and the limit and the difficulties and the challenges, and accompaniment in different touch points and phases connected with the specific difficulties. Here some protective social welfare interventions, in our opinion, direct to asymmetric, to the construction to asymmetric parenthood, starting, for example, for the paternity leave and for a parity leaves and parenthood accompaniment and stable touch points, different for each trajectories. Curated peer communities. We understood from the adoption experiences that it could help a lot. And a cultural promotion of parenthood well-being and what defined a good and the well-being in the journey of parenthood, and equity of access because of all the barriers, economic, cultural, that parents could meet.
Okay, thank you. Just to mention that we said that fathers are absent, but we nominated them quite a lot during this morning. So they are not really absent in our study. They are always in our mind. Ilenia Picardi is not an expert on the topic, but also an expert on the methodology of the topics. So I would like to ask you some aspects more about this specific part of loneliness, and also about the gender dimension. Since fathers are still there must be a gender dimension hidden somewhere, or not that hidden as much as we have talked about differences and perceptions and the burden of the women.
Yes, thank you. First of all,
we have the slides.
See. Yes, please. Yes, I would like just to underline that it's quite clear from the discussion that we have this morning that parenthood is something that we negotiate in different ways in different species. And I think that fatherhood and motherhood are negotiated in a different way in different species, and also this means that we have to thinking about different methodology related to the space that we are studying. And if I would like just to put your attention about the a sort of platform of maternity, platform motherhood that I'm studying recently. And in particular, because this focus is related with the visibility and invisibility of mother, father, and also child, as I would like to show you. And recently, I studied these online discourses on related to the fetal images obtained by 3D and 4D ultrasound scans. And we know that ultrasound scanning is an imaging technique that uses high frequency sound waves to produce images of interiors of our body. And but the traditional ultrasounds provide flat and black and white two-dimensional images of the fetus. But recently we have a further development of this technology that provide 3D dimensional images of fetuses. So I studied this the routine obstetric ultrasound as a hybrid practice, and because it's a diagnostic and social, medical, and cultural practices, and And about the methodology, we trying to combine different approach with multimodal analysis. I started this project with my colleagues that she's a linguistic. And so we try to analyze the discourses analysis in two major British forum related to the to pregnancy. And one of the crucial point that is that men are almost absent. Completely absent. They are not authors in this forum, but but also they are not mentioned by women in this forum. And sorry, thank you. I will skip. I can. These are the forum that we studied. I used about the methodology. I use a theoretical framework provided by the STS feminist approaches. Feminist approaches of social study of science, technology, and particularly with some concepts provided by the scholar, the Barad, try to understand how techniques are not just something that show what is there, but they create what we can see, the object of our attention, our studies. And so they are part of the process of attribution of meaning of what we are seeing. And so very quickly, what we found is that women, young women, are accustomed to sharing a snapshot of everyday life, and so they post these 3D images. It's like this practice is a sort of a pregnancy selfie, but they use these practices to introduce the baby in the world, in the social world. And so for this reason, we speak about a sort of digital birth, because in this the fetus can enter with in the social life before the biological birth. And this also in this process, what we can see in this process, we can also note a sort of dematerialization of the women body, that because the body of the women become invisible, become mute, and so they are father and mother are mute in this kind of process. And also we note that in this narrative there are an attribution of human, emotional, and aesthetic qualities to the fetus, and this is with a strong there is a strong agency of these fetuses, and also with a strong stereotype concept of beauty, of aesthetic, and so is a really gendered norm of introduction, the gendered introduction in the social life. And so what we see is that is at the same time a sort of speaking about emotion. There is these digital images can generate a sort of misalignment between expectation and emotion. For example, because fetus doesn't appear beautiful in this scheme because it doesn't. There is no correspondence with the beauty norms that are extended to the fetal bodies, and but also in these online spaces, what we found is a sort of solidarity with women that use humor, empathetic with the memes, they create funny creature in order to rescue. Yes, encourage women that are in stressing or that are feeling bad emotion. And but also in this process, men are almost completely absent. So there is a sort of solidarity, but I mean, I don't know if this is a strong or fragile solidarity, kind of solidarity. And so I think that what also we can see that that women manage alone some emotions and expectation. So maybe it's the I missed.
Yes, in addition to the loneliness and also an aspect about age, which is super interesting because you were talking about the behavior of younger women. I think that this, and it also goes in the direction of our overall project because it posits the body of the women at the center, which is something that we also wanted to do, even if we looked at other trajectories to become mothers. So as you might have perceived, the discourse on motherhood is quite complex.
Yeah.
So I'm super glad that we leave the conclusion of all the discourse also answering also what Maria Letizia asked, some reflections about policies implications to Livia e Elisa Ortensi.
So yes, I have the role of wrapping a bit up what we said this morning. So I won't use the slides I had because I think it's more nice if we just talk about what we said so far. So I think that one of the main topic that is coming more and more in our discourse is that, yes, as demographer for us in particular, is that yes, we have to look at how women experience motherhood. So it's not just an event, it's how you experience it, and how you experience it can be changed through training. So in our project, we found a crucial role for antenatal courses because it has a positive role on positive delivery. So how women give childbirth, it's better if they are trained. And I think that a policy, an indication of policy is that, of course, we have to work on the inclusion of women in antenatal training, because we know that there are a lot of women that cannot afford, for many reasons, migrant women also, to participate to antenatal courses, but also, as Elena said, support after the birth. This is particularly true for women who had a difficult pattern to motherhood, but also for everyone. these experiences are different according to the age of when you become mother. So this is a big focus of our project. We see that regret is lower if you become mother later. So it's not always it's not all bad becoming mother later, but we have to be very aware of what this means. I think that another thing that is emerging is the role of the body, because the idea that if you had a very traumatic delivery, you are very it's difficult to think of going through it again. So when it happened to me that I watched the series Game of Thrones. I don't know if you have seen that. And there was a moment when they said that childbirth is the battlefield of a woman. There was this character that wanted to fight, and they say, "No, you're a woman. You have to battle on your child when you're giving birth." Yeah, maybe women don't want to fight with their body to give birth. They really, I think that our society that greatly value well-being also value the importance of your body. So maybe I don't want to give birth again if it was so traumatic. So the dimension of the body, it's crucial. We also had a paper that we're writing on obstetric violence, which is another topic that is recurring. It's a bit lateral to FORTIES, but it again talk about the experience of the body for women and how they live childbirth, and this is very important if we look at in the perspective of having a second child. So support, training. And also, as Trude said, we need more data, because we are seeing that motherhood and transition to motherhood is becoming more and more complex, and we are as quantitative researcher very limited by questionnaire of our standard survey. So we use standard surveys that, of course, are so important, but maybe a message that we can bring from FORTIES is that it's important to have these ad hoc surveys that can help us to substantiate new questions. And maybe, as Alessandra said, it would be better to have another survey, because we are learning from these ad hoc surveys about how to ask question. And every time you do an ad hoc survey, you say, "Oh, if I could go back, I would ask also this, and this, and this," because it's only going through results from data that you really understand what you miss. And so maybe with ad hoc survey we can a bit work on the section limitation in our papers, because we will say, "Oh, it will be nice to have panels. It would be nice to have this and this and this, and we don't have." So I think that it's very interesting to have these pilot surveys that maybe can be one day inserted in more important surveys. So this also is an indication of policy, because without data we are blind. So it's really important to found research to understand this new era of fertility that we are living, because we are the first to have a lot of elderly people among the population, and we are the first experiencing new way of transitioning to motherhood and to second birth and so on. So I think this is the thing that were into my mind across this morning. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks for enriching the discussion. As all the good conferences, as it happens for all the good conferences, we run out of time. So thanks to all of you for being present. Thanks to all people online. See you later at the other round table, the Italian one, where we will present also some results about obstetric violence, and we will show the results of the docu-film about adoptions, a shortcut of the docu-film. Thank you and see you later. Stay with us. Thanks a lot, Ilenia. Thanks, Trude, for coming.
Bye.
E vi arriva.
Yes.